I suspect it is by leaps and bounds. It must have gotten, improvement.
Yeah.
Enormous newer
Sir,
buildings and.
actually, I am going live.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me, Parthiban?
Parthiban, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear. We are all live.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can hear me, Parthiban? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
I still can see Sanath.
I can hear you. Yes.
I can see him though. Sanath.
I almost got tired of seeing myself.
I am not. I've seen you for a long time, Sanath.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have missed each other. So, unfortunately, what happened was I left at the last minute. I had left the phone here.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah. That's right. You told me.
but I was able to get some messages, but not talk to people
How did you
easily.
manage
So.
it?
Shobha had phone, and my friends had phone.
Okay.
So again, connection. We are moving, driving, and this and that. So many things
That's
were
right.
happening. So.
I can understand.
It was good, actually facilities, for vegetarian food, unbelievable. Some of the places made,
Yeah.
one of the places we had a special dinner. Yes, they made like a 8 or 10 course dinner, everything vegetarian, not only vegan, no other animal fat or anything. They were very, very, you can pretty much get the food unbelievable. Just like our rasam rice with vegetables,
Yeah.
they make something called paella.
Yeah, I know.
So this paella, basically it's rice, so
I know.
it's very nice,
Very
different
nice.
things they can.
Yeah. It's like a tomato and onion, everything in that rice.
Yeah, you can ask, you want to eliminate onion, you can ask to eliminate, if we don't eat cheese, therefore no cheese. So he says, what is a good thing, even without cheese? But yeah, and then they have a special dish called pastella di nata. That is their special NATA. I was saying nata nalla irukkudu. So it's a sweet. They put a lot of eggs, but they made something which was without eggs. Even with that, they made it for us. Yeah. So it was, I mean, people are friendly. Of course, your physicians make one of the highest paid $1,500 a month. That's the highest, 1,500 euros. Very socialized country. Yeah.
Sanath, there was in a photo that the hospital, in the name of a Goanese doctor, I forgot his name. He came from Goa and established, Indian guy, maternity hospital.
Yeah, I saw that. What was the name?
Blanc. He's an Indian, Goanese, and his statue is there in front of the maternity hospital.
Yeah.
That's where we lectured and also visited that place.
Yeah, it's a nice place. Actually, they are trying to woo all the American investment. They say you can live very comfortably in your retirement, and things like that. So
I've been here. Actually, there is a 25, long time ago, 20, 30 years ago, when Mozambique became independent, 25,000 Indians living in Mozambique were brought over to Portugal in Porto, and they established a beautiful temple. Actually, it looks as big as our Rama temple. With a Gandhi and his wife walking in front. There is a statue.
I see.
It was
somehow we missed it, because nobody talked about it. So we didn't even think about it, honestly. So it didn't even come into the picture. So actually, my daughter Aparna speaks very fluent Portuguese and Spanish. So she was a Fulbright scholar in Mozambique. So
Mozambique. Okay, yeah. If she was a Mozambique, yeah. That's why the about 25,000 people came from Mozambique.
Yeah.
And
they
actually,
say They say they are not making any children, people be so expensive, schools and everything. So they just don't have babies. That's what they were saying. And they were lamenting that the Portuguese population is going down and down and down. So.
Portugal also offered citizenship to people coming from Goa.
Even otherwise, 10 years, if you want to go there, 10 years, you don't have to pay taxes. You can buy property and then you can contribute to the economy. So that's how they're doing it, I believe. So I didn't check into that because
our group has gone up to 10 now, 10 participants now.
Namaskara, Sanat Kumar.
Namaskara. Ella ready agta so yeah.
Sanat, you see us?
Yeah, I think he sees.
Do you see our picture?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. So because I see Parthiban, he might have. I have not moved the thing so that until we start and get going, So I didn't want any. At least you're hearing me, so we didn't want any glitches. So.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
I haven't seen, I'm not seeing Dr. Sagar also.
You're not seeing me?
Ledu, kanpaledu.
I mean, now or?
No, right now, you are not on the screen with your picture.
He will bring everybody into the picture. Parthiban will, as each one of us talk, he will bring that particular person onto the picture. Right, Parthiban?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because we have put the flyer so that people can look at it. And Parthiban, our coordinator, is on the picture right now. So as the turn for each one of us comes, he will project us onto the screen.
Was it a Balakrishna Garu who was calling earlier?
I did not recognize. Just information I gave. So
Ashwat Garu I joined just now. I see.
Yes. So we have 2 minutes, right, Parthiban? 2 minutes to start. Parthiban, sir, 2 minutes, yeah.
You're on mute, Parthi.
Yes, we are going to start. You're right. I was setting it up. It is live streaming on YouTube also. So we will be going live.
1 minute, 7:59. I will start the prayer at the stroke of 8.
Okay.
Gurugaru, okay?
Okay with me.
Yeah.
Where is the Guru Garu? Ashwat Garu unnara?
Unnan kada.
Okay, thank you. I see 16 people have joined it.
Yeah, they'll be flowing in.
Yeah, they'll be coming. Yeah, Ashwat Garu, I can see Ashwat Garu.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Namaskaram andi.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Ashwat Garu.
Namaskara, yes. Namaste, Kashyapji, Rani.
Namaskara.
Namaskara, welcome.
Namaskara, Ashwat.
Namaskara.
Namaskara, Namaskara, Priyanath, welcome.
Namaste, Ashwatji.
Namaste, Kashyapji, welcome.
It's 8 o'clock. We can start.
Okay.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Bharata America Punya Bhumyau Namo Namaha Agajanana Padmarkam Gajanana Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadam Tam Upasmahe Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinamadhitama Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. From here on, I will hand over the mic to Vidyasagar Garu, who will introduce our lecturer. And Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. From here
I,
on,
be-
will hand
I
over
believe somebody has the YouTube on. Can they go on mute?
Sir, you can mute everybody.
Yeah.
Om
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Priyanath, can you please mute? Priyanath, can you please mute your...
Somebody has the YouTube on. Can they go?
Okay, second.
Yeah.
Because there were some mics on.
Yeah, somebody. Okay,
Right.
can I start now? Okay, thank you very much, my dear friends. Again, as a chairperson of the Hindu Temple of Greater Chicago Hindu Dharma Committee, I welcome you all. And most importantly, I would like to thank Sri Asaji for his continued lectures that he has been enlightening us in a number of ways. And today's lecture is an Acharya Parampara. He'll detail. And although all of us know Ashwagaru's contributions, I am very delighted to say, and really we are very privileged for having him as our Acharya, and hopefully we'll make him a permanent Acharya of Hindu Temple of Greater Chicago soon. But meanwhile, we want to be enlightened with his lectures, and today he'll be speaking on Acharya Parampara. Thank you, Ashwat Garu. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam Varshishtante Vasadrashikanai Ravratam Brahmanishtai Acharyendram Karakiramananda Rupam Swatma Ramam Muditavadanam Dakshinamurti Mide. Om. Thanks to Sagar Garu, Sanat Kumar, and Parthiban sir, and all friends of the Greater Chicago Hindu Temple, and my very dear friends in the assembly. Thank you for being here. The subject matter is Acharya Parampara, and obviously the Parampara being very, very long, it has been for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and therefore it is indeed difficult to cover the entire tradition in one sitting, and therefore we will spread this study into multiple sessions, and then this will give us an opportunity to see the growth of the studies, the intellectual tradition of our Vedic wisdom from the very beginning. Let me start with a story, and this is a beautiful story which sets in the tone. Who is the first guru? When we say Acharya Parampara, it is a heritage, and this heritage must start from somewhere. So where does it start? So a number of concepts are there. First of all, there is Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. There is one tradition which says it all started with Lord Shiva himself, Sadashiva Samarambham. Then, of course, there were many gurus until my own guru. and everybody has contributed to this flow or the Saraswati of knowledge. There is also a tradition which says it all started with Lord Narayana. Narayanam Padmabhavam. It started with Narayana, and then he gives it to his son Brahma, and so on and so forth. We will come to that as we continue our study. The essential point is the first guru has always, it must be a divine principle, because no human being can start the Guru Shishya tradition. Because suppose we say it's a human being who has started the Guru Acharya Parampara, then in that case, the question always arises, who taught the first Guru? And therefore, it has to commence with the one of the Devatas only, because their Devatas are called Amaras, or immortal, and they hold all the knowledge in Pralaya. And whenever a new world is created, the Srishti takes place. At the time of Srishti, then somebody has to start the learning tradition and then create gurus. Those gurus will have to create shishyas, and those shishyas in turn become guru, and thus the Guru Parampara continues. So it has to start with Devata, or the divine descent, or we call it as Avatara. Interestingly, this is not unique to our Vedic heritage. In fact, every spiritual heritage, it always starts with God only. Suppose you go to the Old Testament. In the Old Testament also, the first student is Moses, and Moses receives knowledge from God only. So you can see in every tradition, the Guru Shishya Parampara starts with God. And therefore, our tradition is no different. So it starts from Lord Shiva, Sadashiva Samarambham. But there is one problem with Shiva, because he is silent. As the Dakshinamurti Stotra I just quoted, Mauna Vyakhya Pragadata Parabrahma Tattvam. He is the one who teaches in silence. So how can there be any teaching when there is no language? One question. And second question is, how do we teach before language is there? So these two aspects had to be resolved. And therefore, Bhagavan Shiva, in the legend I'm about to describe, he cannot use any words because language has not been created yet. He has to create the language. And how does he create the language? There is a beautiful legend that in a place called Tillai, in fact, Tillai is a Tamil term which relates to the present day Chidambaram. In fact, the word Chidambaram is Chit Eva Ambaram, where consciousness is the space. Ambara means space. Chit means consciousness. In the space of consciousness, in the space of Chaitanyam, the communication has to start by first creating language itself. And that language will have to be interpreted by himself, because he is the progenitor of everything. And hence, the Adi Guru, the very first Guru who started, was Bhagavan Shiva. And the location where this happened is Chidambaram or Tillai. So now language is not there. Language has to be created. How to do that? So he takes his the drum, the damaru, and then he starts playing this damaru. there is a beautiful verse which says, Nrittavasane Natarajarajaha Nanada Dhakkam Navapanchavaram. Nrittavasane, at the end of the cosmic dance, Natarajarajaha, the Lord Nataraja, Nanada Dhakkam, he made the sound of his drum, Nava Pancha Varam. Nava means 9, Pancha means 5, 9 plus 5 is 14. So 14 times he made this sound, a very structured, orderly way of playing the drum. Then with these 14 sounds that emanated from this drum, language came up. So first thing that came up in the Guru Parampara was the creation of language itself. Now this language is also cannot be understood because the recipient of the sound doesn't know the language. So how to teach? Again, let us go back and remember, how do we teach our children, say a 2-year-old child, a 1-year-old child? A 1-year-old child is taught by the parents by actions, by their own action. The mother puts her hand on the nose and say, this is nose. And that is how transmission takes place with the child. So the same thing happened. When, just give me 1 second, please. The same thing happened in Tillai, in this original dance also. He started the cosmic dance. In this cosmic dance, he is supposed to have used speech through his gestures. And then in dance, you also need ornamentation. So for ornamentation, what he did was he took the moon and the sun and decorated himself with the moon and sun and the stars. That means there are luminaries, which is also a metaphor to say any vidya that is being transmitted is a shining entity. That is why Chandra, then Taras, Tara means all the stars, and all of these things represent knowledge. All right. Then when he played the drum did not give out any specific language alphabet. What it did was it gave sounds, which means that any language that human being is going to create will fall within the spectrum of the sounds that are made in this drum. You can see how the challenge of communication where language is not there was solved by Shiva, Nataraja. Only God can do that. And therefore, recognizing this, Bharata in Natya Shastra, he used the Nandi Shloka by saying, Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya, Vachikam Sarvavangmayam, Aharyam Chandrataradi, Tam Numaha Sattvikam Shivam, which means his entire world where so many activities are happening, and that is his gesture, whatever any living being does, and that is a language. Any movement of any of our limbs is a language. And I don't need to elaborate that, because many times we control by just raising of a hand, by just pointing a finger. So that way, Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya. And then all the words that are ever created in the universe, all the languages that are ever created comes out of these 14 sounds of the drums. And what is the purpose of this dance? The purpose is to create a sattva guna. Sattva guna is a nobility of character. In other words, the reason for a guru to teach is to create a noble student. So this is the preamble with which the dance took place. In this dance, Nataraja's dance had to have witnesses, because without witnesses, how can there be a Guru Shishya Parampara? Those witnesses were actually Vinayaka, Lord Ganapati himself, Subramanya, another Devata, Vishnu, Lakshmi, Brahma, and all the Devatas in Tillai, which is called Kanaka Sabha. Kanaka Sabha means it is a golden assembly. In fact, there are 5 such sabhas, 5 different temples are assigned to Nataraja, and all the 5 of them are in Tamil Nadu, interestingly. If any of you would like to do a pilgrimage of those 5, all you need to do is to go to Tamil Nadu. And these 5 temples are there. And among these 5 temples, the most important temple is of the Chidambaram Nataraja temple. It is called Kanaka Sabha. In this Kanaka Sabha, witnessed by all these devatas, the very first teaching started. And this point is actually picked up by Patanjali also in the Yoga Sutras, where he says, Ishvara, who is Ishvara? Saha Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anavachhedat. There is a sutra in the first chapter of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra where he says, Ishvara is the original Guru, and he continues to be a Guru through every Guru ever since, and will remain in the presence of the Guru, inside the Guru for all time to come, and therefore he is unfettered by time. And hence, Acharya Parampara, we can all be assured that it will never be broken, because this is the promise of the Shastra. As long as the rivers flow, as long as the mountains are there, Guru Shishya Parampara, Acharya Parampara will continue. So, Devata is dancing and creating the teaching. Devatas are witnessing the teaching. How can it trickle down to human beings? Because a human being also should be present in the first assembly. 2 people were there in the first assembly. 2 human beings with a very interesting body structure. Unlike a human body which we know with the head, torso, legs, etc., these 2 people who were there, one was Patanjali, and Patanjali has a human head and a torso of a serpent. Then the other is Vyagrapada, whose head is human and the torso is that of a tiger. So the metaphor is that Guru and Acharya Parampara is not limited to a human beings only. The Acharya Parampara is given even to the animal kingdom, because without knowledge, there is no life. And to give that metaphor in this cosmic dance, Patanjali witnesses Shiva's cosmic dance. A very keen student, very sharp, brilliant student. He was inspired by this dance. He drew 3 conclusions by witnessing this dance. Number 1, Shiva's body was perfect, absolutely supple, and it was the very embodiment of good health. That was the first thing he noticed. Is that not the first thing we notice of anyone? We notice their form. How do they look? And because of his extraordinarily supple form, Patanjali noticed, this is why he is able to dance, and also with such enjoyment. He is full of enjoyment, and the movement of his body is giving him so much sukha. And therefore, Patanjali thought that for any learning to be successful, the most important thing is we must have good health. And for the sake of good health, for the sake of physical well-being, a number of disciplines have to be created. First and foremost, nutrition. And then you have to create a proper lifestyle. And then, of course, in case of sickness, you have got to create medicines. Number of things have to be done. All of them can be classified under one Shastra called the Vaidya Shastra. So Patanjali Maharshi decides, let me, whatever I have observed and understood from the cosmic dance of Bhagavan Shiva, let me write a treatise, because I'm an eyewitness to the communication by Lord Shiva as to what happens when the body is in perfect health. And he wrote a treatise called Charaka Samhita. Charaka Samhita text is still available to us, and that is considered as a text written by Patanjali while witnessing the cosmic dance of Nataraja. Then the second thing he noticed, there was so much joy in this dance. There was no stress, and there was total abandonment of any worry. And he called it as Ananda, joy. Not happiness, joy. Then he said, how can this joy be there in anybody? How can such pure joy can be in anybody unless that person is full of one guna or characteristic called sattva guna? So here he notices, Patanjali, there is a sattva guna pradhana ananda in Bhagavan Shiva. Now, how can one have sattva guna and how can one have ananda? Unless there is a perfected balance of mind. And therefore, Patanjali Maharshi decided, let me write a treatise on the mind. And he wrote Yoga Sutras. Then after doing this, our life becomes either easy or difficult, depending on how we interact with other people. All interpersonal relationships, every interpersonal relationships, please think about it. It depends on how we speak to each other. Speech is what determines good relationships and bad relationships. And therefore, we have to design a methodology of wholesome and correct speech. And that is done by means of grammar. So Patanjali wrote a treatise on grammar called Mahabhashya. As a sidebar, for those of you who are students of Sanskrit, among the entire huge corpus of Sanskrit writing, 3 outstanding texts are Patanjali's Mahabhashya, Shabara Swami's Bhashya, called Shabara Bhashya. And then the third one is Acharya Shankara's Bhashya on the Brahma Sutras. If you were to study these three Bhashyas, you will get an extraordinary mastery over Sanskrit. And one of them, you see, is the Mahabhashya of Patanjali. And hence, the very first student of the original Guru Bhagavan Shiva is Patanjali Maharshi, and therefore we always remember Patanjali by this prayer, Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Manatosmi. By giving Yoga Shastra, he perfected our mind. Yogena Chittasya. By giving us language, he perfected our speech. Padena Vacham. And the impurities of the body, Malam Sharirasya Cha, by the science of medicine, Vaidyakena. And this extraordinary Muni, Patanjali, I bow down. So in the Acharya Parampara, yes, immediately after Bhagavan Shiva, it is Patanjali. That is the Guru Shishya Parampara, the Acharya. What does the Acharya teach? Now, we have language. Now we have a means of taking care of the body. Now, what is the way in which the teacher starts teaching? Every teacher who can be called as an Acharya has got to pass on this to his students. Number one, take good care of your body and maintain good health. How many Acharyas talk about this? You sit with any Acharya, the first thing is they will jump and talk about philosophy, or they will jump and talk about science. But look at the standard that is set by Patanjali Maharshi. Take good care of your body, because Shariram Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. So just as we are tracing the first teacher and the first student, the first instruction is take care of your body. Shariram Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Second instruction, cultivate a wholesome and good communication skills. In Kishkindha Kanda of Ramayana, in another assembly, I'm speaking on the intricacies of Ramayana. Rama and Lakshmana enter into the Kishkindha forest. And that was where Sugriva had camp called the Rishyamukha Parvata. And that was inaccessible to Vali, and he felt safe. In spite of that, there was a constant terror in the mind of Sugriva that somehow Vali in some form, shape will come and then destroy him. So when Rama Lakshmanas enter, the first thing that happens to Sugriva is get scared. Terribly scared. Ramayana writes beautifully, saying that he started jumping from one branch of the tree to another branch in great agitation. Then Hanuman calms him down. Let us go check for who they are. And Hanuman changes himself into the form of a sadhu and then presents himself before Rama Lakshmanas. And then he inquires in a very simple manner. Both of you look like mendicants, but you are holding weapons. Why is this, sir? Because if you are a sadhu purusha, why should there be a weapon in your hand? Just as a contrast, as Ramayana is Adikavya in Sanskrit, Canterbury Tales is Adikavya in English. Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. In Canterbury Tales also a situation comes where a group of people are going on a pilgrimage to visit the grave of Samuel Beckett. And there will be a soldier among them, among the pilgrims, who comes with all his military paraphernalia and weapons. Same question was asked of him also in Canterbury Tales. You see that even in Ramayana, this question by Hanuman is asked. And for that, Rama says, Lakshmana, look at Hanuman. He speaks in such perfect manner. Nobody who is not a master of Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, of grammar can ever speak like that. There is not one single apashabda. Apashabda means discordant note in his speech. There is no inappropriate word. There is no ill-placed word or idea. Look at his face. Look at his eyes. Look at his forehead, his eyebrows, and all other limbs. He speaks from his heart. He is unambiguous, unfaltering in his talking. And it is not at all harsh. And it has got distinct diction. And he is fluent. Look at him. All these virtues in speech is the next teaching that happened by the first Acharya. Shiva transmits that to Patanjali, and Patanjali transmits to us through Mahabhashya. So the first one we covered was take care of your body. Not only we have to see the Acharya Parampara in this series of talks, we will also see the Parampara of the ideas. Then our study becomes very powerful. Along with the lives of these Acharyas, we will see the life of the ideas also, how long they live along. They live. Health of the body, eternal teaching. Cultivating extraordinary speech, eternal teaching. And this is possible, both good health as well as good speech is possible only when mind is under control. Because it is a mind which controls both our speech and the body. And therefore, the third teaching, in the first set of teaching in the Acharya Parampara, that happened was cultivate a calm and controlled mind. So 3 extraordinary learning was transmitted to Bhagavan Patanjali by Bhagavan Shiva. And how did that happen? The student keenly was observing the dance of Nataraja. So this is another teaching he shows, that is, in any learning, unswerving concentration has to be there by a Shishya. That's why we use the word Shishya. A Shishya is also a Shishta. Shishta means one who is cultured. So, how did Patanjali achieve this feat? How was he able to do that? What was his mind? And here, Vedanta helps us. Vedanta says the very first requisite for a student is Shravanam, that is careful and dynamic listening. Very, very important. Listening, please note, is not limited to hearing only. It actually includes observing. It includes deduction. It includes organizing our thoughts and also an effective presentation. And that is why Mahabhashya of Patanjali and Yoga Sutra of Patanjali are unparalleled. I have not studied Charaka Samhita, so I cannot make a comment on that. But Yoga Shastra and Mahabhashya I have studied. I can assure you that both of these texts have these qualities. And the challenge for Patanjali is that we don't have. The teacher is teaching, but he is not speaking at all. It is Mauna Vyakya, non-verbal teaching. And this also brings up by saying lot of things we learn from our gurus without any speech or talking. This is the reason why the most effective Acharya Parampara is possible only when the students sit in physical proximity of the teacher. There is one sidebar story here. This is from an Upanishad called the Prashnopanishad. In Prashnopanishad, 6 extraordinary scholars from different parts of the world were not satisfied by their achievement. They all were Nobel laureates, let us say. But still they said, there is something lacking in our knowledge. Where can we go for this transcendental knowledge? And everybody heard, there is one sage called Pippalada. Let us go to him for learning. And they all come to Pippalada in person. And Pippalada tells them, welcome. What do you want? Sir, we have questions. Before you can ask question and before I can answer, samvatsaram samvatsyatha. You live with me for 1 year. And any question you want, you can ask after that. The reason is, the teacher will know what is the conduct of the student in 1 year. Likewise, the student will know what is the quality of the teacher in that 1 year. How does he do? What time he gets up in the morning and what is his routine? What does he study? What is his nitya karma anusthana? How does he do his everyday duties? How does he speak to people? How does he take care of his body? How much does he eat? Everything. First-hand observation is possible only when the teacher and the student sit in proximity to each other. I heard a very beautiful statement. Now we have information technology creating illiteracy. Everything is accessible on the internet, but what has it? It has created a new kind of illiteracy, and that illiteracy is the illiteracy of transmission from a teacher to student physically. And then, so were there not any other gurus before Patanjali? That question may arise. Yes, there were the gurus, there was Sri Krishna, there was Bhagavan Vedavyasa, and therefore in the Acharya Parampara, separate threads of Guru Shishya Parampara, Acharya Parampara also happened. For example, when Parabrahman takes the form of Shiva, we have Patanjali. As we shall presently see, Patanjali's student was Gaudapada, and Gaudapada student was Govinda Bhagavatpada, Govinda Bhagavatpada student Acharya Shankara. And then Brahma teaches his Manasaputra Narada, and then the sage Parashara. So there is a divine teacher and a human student. And then if you start with Vishnu, there is a Vyasa, who is the incarnation of Vishnu, Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya. And then Vyasa's 4 students and so on. And Gaudapada goes to Vyasa. And then there was also interrelationship between Guru Paramparas also. But let us start with the thread which we started, Patanjali. So Patanjali, he decides to teach. He was actually an avatar of Adishesha. Adishesha, as you know, is the divine serpent who acts as a bed for Mahavishnu in the Puranas. So he takes form as Patanjali and the son of Maharshi Atreya, and Atreya's wife was Gonika. And the couple Atreya and Gonika get an immaculate child. One day it appears that Gonika was actually offering Arghya to Surya in the morning. You can imagine Sandhya Vandana was done even by women. And she was doing Sandhya Vandana and offering the Arghya to Surya. And when she was giving Arghya to Surya, a worm-like object fell into her open palms in the water she was holding. And that grew into a human form, because in the Anjali, Anjali is the cupped hands, Patat fell down. He was given the name Patanjali. And this Patanjali, we have seen that by now has become an adult, and he has composed these extraordinary works, and they had to teach. So he makes an announcement. He announces that he will teach all that he has learned by observing, by the Shravana of seeing Bhagavan Shiva's cosmic dance. And as soon as such an eminent teacher announced that he is going to start a class, thousands of students enrolled. Actually, 1,000 students enrolled. Now, how are you going to teach 1,000 students? Huge crowd. So he chooses the Tillai, the Chidambaram, with a 1,000-pillared temple. Historically, they may say this temple was created in the 10th, 11th century. But something else must have been there earlier, obviously. In fact, in the very early days, they used to build temples and palaces and all of them with wood. And over a period of time, wood will be destroyed. And therefore, the original 1,000-pillar temple must have got destroyed. And 1,000-pillar temple, he chose us. This is the Kanakasabha Mantapa. And then he asked each one of these 1,000 students to take and then sit at one pillar each. So we have got 1,000 pillars and 1,000 students, one student at each pillar. So they came, and they came from different backgrounds. They came from different mental capabilities. If you want to teach anybody, the teaching has to be customized. Even to this day, at PhD level, how many students do you have at PhD level for a mentor, for a teacher? 1, 2 at a time? You cannot have 100 students like in undergrad class. 1 or 2 only. Because of the intensity required for teaching people of that caliber, Patanjali says, how can I customize my teaching to each one of them based on their own individual mental capacities? So he said, let us draw a curtain. I am going to sit behind this curtain. And nobody should raise the curtain and peep inside when I am teaching. If anybody looks at me, they will be immediately burned down to ashes. So Patanjali goes behind this curtain and assumes his original form of Adishesha with 1,000 hoods. So each hood becomes the teacher for one student. Now you can see Patanjali in the form of Adishesha customizes the teaching to every student. Let us say this is Purana, unbelievable. But would you believe in an eminent teacher who will be speaking on a subject, and to the extent of the student's intelligence, that student will understand? Isn't it? That is the brilliance of the teacher. Every student will go away from the class knowing something. There is not a single student who will walk out of the class and saying, I did not understand anything. Only the degree of understanding can change depending on the student. This also shows in the Acharya Parampara, the erudition and the ability to speak to the student. And that standard was laid down by Patanjali when he started teaching. So he was supposed to be behind the curtain and nobody was supposed to peep. If they peeped in, then because the curtain is raised, whoever is sitting within the view of Patanjali will all be burned down. Risk of all the 1,000 people being burned down is there by one person peeping into the behind the curtain. Then he places another condition. Another condition is, if you do not concentrate and study, and then you wander away because I am not seeing. This happens even to this day in a class of 140, 150 people. The people will say, nicely sneak out of the class and go to a movie. If anybody does like that, such a person will become a Brahma Rakshasa. Obviously, in this story, one person will have to do this. Will have to raise the curtain and then get into trouble. But Patanjali's quality of teaching is, he was not only a guru, but he was also an Acharya. There is a beautiful definition in Sanskrit for an Acharya. Achinoti cha shastrartham. One who thoroughly knows the meaning of the Shastra. Acharya sthapayatyapi. He has the ability and the leadership qualities of making his students follow the conduct. Swayam acharate yasmat. Whatever he says, he himself follows. And therefore, tasmat acharya uchyate. Here we have the first human teacher, Patanjali, who knows what is Shastra because he composed the Shastra. He is about to make everybody lead a life of Shastra and himself committed because he will not stir out of his place while he is teaching. With that commitment, he sits there. Another universal message. Until all the learning is over, do not wander away. So, Patanjali also becomes the first human guru to teach Dharma. First human guru to teach how to learn, Shravana. First human guru to teach us that we should take care of our body. First human guru to teach us what is Dharma. And then the curiosity of this one student, when he lifts up this curtain, all the people in the assembly get burned. And Patanjali Maharishi is extremely saddened. Fortunately or unfortunately, because the Acharya Parampara should continue, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, one of the dull students, there was a dull student, this dull student got terribly bored, and in the middle of this teaching, he walked away. So he was spared. And this fellow was from a country called the Gauda Desha. There are, in the classification of Bharata, there are 5 Gauda Deshas. And Bharata is cut into 2 parts by the Vindhya mountains. So north of Vindhya mountains, there are 5 Janapadas, as they call, or Gauda Deshas. The Saraswatas from Kashmir, the Kanyakubjas from Punjab, the Gaudas from Bengal, Utkalas from Orissa, and Mithilas from Nepal. So these 5, even to this day, are called as Gauda Deshas. And this student was from Gauda Desha, from the area of Bengal. So bored and also dull, he had walked away. And in the meanwhile, Patanjali is sitting completely saddened that everybody is burned down because of the severe venom of Adishesha's breath. Now, when all this rubble is there, slowly our hero Gauda walks in. And Patanjali is delighted. At least one student is left. And he calls him, "Hey, Gauda, come here. I'm going to completely give you all the education. You are the only one out of this 1,000 who have survived." And by Guru's grace, he transmits all the knowledge to this Gauda. But unfortunately, the curse was there that he has got to become a Brahma Rakshasa. Who is a Brahma Rakshasa? A Brahma Rakshasa is a learned person adept in the learning of the Veda and the Shastras, but dies prematurely. So what is premature death? Any learned person who dies before he transmits his knowledge to another person. Again, a caution for all the learned people. If after your learning you don't teach another person, the person will become a Brahma Rakshasa. Quite a severe punishment. This Brahma Rakshasa is a kind of a ghost. And this ghost will remain in that state for the original span of his life. So here we have a young youth, maybe 25 years old, and then his span of life is 100. For the next 75 years, he is condemned to be a Brahma Rakshasa. So he is in a state of limbo. But he retains all the knowledge he has learned. Patanjali now blesses this Gauda. At least you are left, and I had an opportunity to transmit this knowledge to you. But then my curse that you should become a Brahma Rakshasa is also there. I will also give a Ushapa. Ushapa means an antidote to this. That antidote is, when you teach this to another person, you will be released from this state. So this student's name was Gaudapada. This Gaudapada is the Paramaguru of Adi Shankara. And this Gaudapada, what he does is, he has understood the message of the Acharyas, that is, listen, Shravana. By not taking care of the body, he has remained as a Brahma Rakshasa. So that was the next thing. But he had cultivated the wholesome ability of communication. And what is the standard of communication required of an Acharya? He must always speak the truth, Satyam Bruyat. He must speak the truth in a pleasant manner, Priyam Bruyat. Never say untruth just because it is pleasant. Nabruyat Satyam Apriyam. Priyancha Nanratam Bruyat. Yesha Dharma Sanatanaha. This is the Sanatana Dharma. And then he also said, exercise control on your mind and be peaceful. Because all the Shastras are designed for peace of mind only. Shamaya Sarva Shastrani Vitani Manishnaha. What is the purpose of Shastra? To give us peace of mind. Who is a learned person? Whose mind is peaceful. And then, so this Brahma Rakshasa he became. Now the big problem for Brahma Rakshasa is, whenever somebody comes, the Brahma Rakshasa will start asking questions on Shastra. If that person who comes there doesn't know Shastra or does not give correct answer, that person will be killed and eaten. Brahma Rakshasa eats human flesh. What a terrible thing. So many people had to die in the hands of our Brahma Rakshasa. And where did he set up his location? On the banks of the Narmada River, which is on the highway from North India to South India. People wanting to learn from scholars of South India used to come from Gauda Desha. To go to Dravida Deshas, just like there are 5 Gauda Deshas in North India, so there are 5 Dravida Deshas in South India. They are called Andhra, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. These are called the 5 Dravida Deshas. So you have to pass through this Narmada River. And people traveling from north to south, anybody who comes there as a Brahmana and shows like a learned person gets caught by this Brahma Rakshasa and gets eaten up. One day, a young, very handsome boy from Kashmir came along. He had heard about Chidambara and that Bhagavan Shiva himself taught Patanjali. So the boy wanted to go to Chidambara to learn. Now Brahma Rakshasa, our Gaudapada, he appears before this Brahmana and started asking questions. And the boy answered every one of the questions perfectly. And Gaudapada Brahma Rakshasa was delighted because he will be freed from that state. And he told the boy, you need not go to Chidambaram. All that you want to learn, I will teach you. Because I am the student of Patanjali. Now, how can you accept a Brahma Rakshasa as your teacher? Look at the problem here. But what is the other go? You cannot escape him. So Brahma Rakshasa said, sit here. You cannot leave this tree and you cannot sleep. Until I finish my teaching, you have got to listen and assimilate it. From this we came to another dictum in the teacher-student relationship. Vidyaturanam na bhayam na sukham na nidra. Those who are anxious about learning, there is no comfort, there is no sleep. Another beautiful message of the Acharyas. All these stories are metaphorical, but we have to draw a principle from that. The boy wanted to write down, but he had not brought any instruments or any tools, any paper, nothing. No. So he plucks the leaves from the tree, takes a twig, carves his skin, and dips that in the blood and took down the notes of everything that Gaudapada had to teach. And this Gaudapada student, this young Brahmin, was called Chandra Sharma. This Chandra Sharma, he takes sannyasa and assumes the name Govinda Bhagavat Pada, and this Govinda Bhagavat Pada in turn becomes the teacher of Adi Shankara. So we come to Adi Shankara's time. So far, what is the quality of teaching? Because Acharya teaches character, quality, speech, proper method of speech, dedication to knowledge, all of those things he teaches. But is this teaching boring, strenuous, causes a lot of mental agony? Does it do that? The answer is this whole teaching is none of that, because there is a beautiful Subhashita which says this teaching is chittahladi. It completely delights your mind. Value number one. Number two, this teaching is vyasana vimukhaha. It takes us away from any addictions. Number three, shoka tapapanodi. It removes sufferings and sorrow. Number four, prajnotpadi. It creates wisdom. Number five, shravana subhagam. Beautiful lilting to hear. Nyaya marganusari. Absolutely logical. Tatyam, truthful. Pathyam, good for us. Vyapagata mamalam, free from any impurities. Mukta badham, removes all our stresses. Yo nirdosham, that which is flawless. Rachayate vachaha, tambudaha santamahu. If Chandra Sharma, who becomes Govinda Bhagavat Pada, can cut his own skin and take notes of the teaching, please imagine that Gaudapada's teaching had all these 11 qualities. And that standard of how an Acharya should be is also laid down. And the extraordinary legacy of such teaching we see in our entire Acharya Parampara. We will see more in the next month when we meet. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kumar Samaglu, you have a question?
Yes, Gurugula. I put my question actually. So the whole scheme looks like the guard, one guard for India and ignore the rest of the world.
How it happens is God manifests in the form that you want to see. So the Kalpana of Ishvara, Brahmano Rupa Kalpana, there is a Shastra Vakya. Brahmano Rupa Kalpana is as the student imagines, so the teacher will present himself. So if you want to think of your guru as belonging to a particular race, belonging to a particular gender, or speak a particular language, then that is how the guru will present himself to you.
Okay. But the principle is same for the whole universe.
Absolutely.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you. Ashwat Garu, we are blessed to have our Patanjali today. You are not only spoke of Patanjali, but you are our Patanjali. Thank you very much. I thank on behalf of everybody. Anybody wants to have a question, that's fine. Wants to.
If anybody has a question, you can unmute and
We'll continue to have this presentation next.
so we will look at the Acharya Parampara and then how all the principles that I itemized today will be there flowing through every worthy Acharya.
So the
Thank you very much, sir.
Gurus who came from the here, right?
Pardon?
Shankara's gurus were one of the Gaudapadas. One of the Gaudapadas here.
Yes, and
Right.
incidentally, there is one other important point which I will thread. I will take up when I take up next time. A devata, who is a teacher, he teaches a student, and the teacher becomes, the devata becomes the student of that teacher. We'll start with that concept when we meet next time. For example, Gaudapada was Patanjali's student. Patanjali comes in the form of Govinda Bhagavat Pada to become a student of Gaudapada. And Bhagavan Shankara himself comes in the form of Shankaracharya to become the student of Patanjali, who was his student.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So this is how you will see that the devata or the Godhead who started this at the appropriate time will take birth as a student. Now this point is very, very, very critical because the question is, within 32 years of Shankara's life, in 32 years of Shankara's life, about 20 years were his productive life. First 12 years he was learning. And 20 years of work, what he did, I have been studying him for 50 years and I have not even scratched the surface. How can Shankara write with such profundity unless he is the incarnation of Ishvara? So Ishvara starts the Guru Shishya Parampara, teaches his student, the student's student will become Ishvara, and the student will become Ishvara's student again. This is how, in other words, the Bhagavat Swarupa will be there in the student as well as in the teacher. This is why Patanjali writes in Yoga Sutra, Saha Purvesham api Guruhu Kalena Anavachedat. Kalena Anavachedat, in the flow of time, Ishvara will continue to become a Guru and a Shishya. And that is why we actually hold Guru in the highest esteem. Bhagavad Gita also says, Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti. Ishvara, Guru, and our own self, those three are the same.
Thank you.
I'm so thankful to you for giving me an opportunity to share some of these thoughts.
We are blessed.
That was really wonderful, Rishaji.
Hmm.
The recording will be available, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rishaji. Namaskar.
Actually, the recording is also available on the YouTube. You can go to the YouTube and search for Hindu Temple of Greater Chicago. You will see this today's session there, right there.
Okay, thank you.
I do pranam
Thank you very
on
much.
behalf
It
of
was
all
nice
our
talk.
devotees, all those listeners. One pranam.